For this lesson, we're talking about simplifying using the division properties of exponents, and we have a few examples here. First of all, let's just talk about a basic example down here at the bottom, where we see 1/2 being raised to the second power. Okay? Well, that's like saying 1/2 times 1/2. Okay? Well, that's 1 times 1, which would be 1 to the second power, and 2 times 2, which is 2 to the second power. So notice, we could have just skipped over this step and said, well, it's 1 to the second power, right? And 2 to the second power. Right? We get that in that step right there. And then that will simplify to be 1/4. Right? For that easy example, hopefully you wouldn't need to do all of that. But when we're working with variables, those rules are going to become important. Right? The ones that we could use to skip right to that step. Okay? So let's take a look. So we need to make sure that this exponent goes to every value within the parentheses. Right? That 2 doesn't just affect one thing. It affects every single value, because this is like saying 3n to the second power over 4n, or n to the fourth power multiplied by 3n to the second power over n to the fourth power. Okay? So it's going to be multiplied by everything that's in here. So that 2 needs to go to our 3, so it should be 3 to the second power. It should be 2 times 2, right? So it should be n, 2 times 2 is 4 to the fourth power, and then we should get n to the 8th, because 4 times 2 is 8. Okay? So we need to make sure that that 2 goes to everything. Okay? It doesn't just go to the numerator, right? It doesn't just go to the first value. It goes to everything. Okay? Now, we look at it and say, can we simplify this at all? Well, we have n's. We have the base n in the numerator and the denominator. And we know if we have to eliminate these, right, we can get rid of them. And I say, well, n to the 8th power, that's larger than n to the 4th power. So I'm going to end up with my n is going to be in my base. So it should be in my base, it should be 8 minus 4, right? The power that's in the base, okay? And we subtract the power in the numerator. And then we get 3 to the second power, and let's simplify it out. Well, 3 to the second power is 9, and 8 minus 4 is 4, so n to the 4th power. That is our answer. For this problem, this one doesn't have any variables, okay? But we notice that there's a negative symbol, so we need to keep that in mind. Well, remember, a positive times a positive, or sorry, I apologize. Remember, negative times a negative is a positive number, okay? Well, this is going to be a negative times a negative times a negative. So when we have 3 negative symbols, it's going to end up being negative. Okay? 2 negatives make a positive, 3 negatives make a negative. Okay? 4 negatives, if it was a negative number to the 4th power, it would actually end up being positives. So anytime that we have an exponent here, if it's an odd exponent, right? A negative number raised to an odd exponent, it's going to end up being negative. If it's raised to an even exponent, it's going to be positive. Well, let's take a look at this. So since it's an odd exponent, it's going to be negative, and it's going to be 4 to the 3rd power over 5 to the 3rd power. From there, we can simplify it. It's still going to be negative. It's going to be 64 and 125. And we could look and say, is that going to simplify? But it's not. It is not going to simplify. For 3, here we go. All right, we have a negative, right, exponent here. So these variables with exponents being raised to a negative power. So what that's going to do, it's going to go to every term just like it usually would. So it's going to be x, well, 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. So it's going to be x to the negative 6th power over y to the negative 4th power. Okay. Well, since these are negative exponents, I'm going to put the x to the negative 6th power, right? I can put that in my denominator, but I can't change it to a positive exponent. And then my y, I would move to my numerator because it had a negative exponent. So my answer there would be y to the 4th power over x to the 6th power.